Sometimes Sunday morning services don't go as we plan. Ida always went to the church for the 7 o'clock Sunday morning service. Usually she heard the clanging of the church bells while she was eating breakfast, but this morning she heard them while she was still in bed. That means I'm late, she thought. She jumped out of bed, quickly dressed, and left without eating or looking at the clock. It was still dark outside, but it usually was dark at this time of the year. Ida was the only one on the streets, though. The only sound she heard were the clatter of her shoes on the pavement. Everybody must already be in church. I really am late, she thought. Ida took a shortcut through the cemetery, then quietly slipped into the church and found a seat. The service had already begun. When she caught her breath, Ida looked around. The church was filled with people she had never seen before. But the woman next to her did look familiar. Ida smiled at her. Why, it's Josephine Kerr, she thought. But she's dead. She died a month ago. Suddenly, Ida felt uneasy. She looked around again. As her eyes began to adjust to the dim light, Ida saw skeletons in suits and dresses. This is a service for the dead, Ida thought. Everybody here is dead, except for me. Ida noticed that some of them were beginning to stare at her. They looked angry, as if she had no business there. Josephine Kerr even leaned toward her and whispered, "Leave right now, before the benedictions, if you care for your life." When the service came to an end, the minister gave his blessing. "The Lord bless you and keep you," he said. "The Lord make his face to shine upon you." Ida quickly grabbed her coat and walked towards the door. Then she heard steps behind her. She glanced back. Several of the dead were coming towards her. Others were getting up to join them. "The Lord lift up his countenance to you," the minister intoned. Ida was so frightened she began to run. Out the door she ran with a pack of shrieking ghosts at her heels. "Get out!" one of them screamed. Another shouted, "You don't belong here," and ripped her coat away. As Ida ran through the cemetery, a third grabbed the hat from her head. "Don't come back," it screamed, and shook its arm at her. By the time Ida reached the street, the sun was rising and the dead had disappeared. Did this really happen, Ida thought? Or have I been dreaming? That afternoon, one of Ida's friends brought over her coat and hat, or what was left of them. They had been found in the cemetery, ripped to shreds. This has been Sunday Morning Service, collected by Alvin Schwartz.